Are you starting off your muscle building journey and wondering how much muscle you'll be able to put on? Or are you somewhere along the line and you're wondering if you've put on a decent amount of muscle? In this video, I'm going to tell you how long it takes to build muscle, what rate you can build it at, and what's realistic for you. And at the end, I'm going to tell you about the most important things you need to do in order to maximize your muscle building potential. Hi, it's Ivana, helping you get fit, healthy, and strong at any age. If that sounds good, please consider subscribing to my channel. Now, everybody puts on muscle at different rates, and everybody has a different muscle building capacity. What affects your ability to put on muscle? Well, I'm going to talk about the things that are not changeable first. So the things that you need to be aware of that are affecting your muscle building potential, but there's nothing really you can do about them. And the first of those things is genetics. And yes, some people are more blessed with muscle building potential than others. This comes down to what you got from your parents. Not a lot we can do here. Some people have more type 2 fibers, which are the fast twitch muscles that respond better to muscle building. If you naturally have a higher percentage of type 2 fibers, then you'll have a greater potential for muscle growth. You also need to think about your body structure. It depends on how tall you are, how long your limbs are. Limb length is a big one in terms of that, because someone who has very long limbs is never going to get those really big bulging muscle bellies. If you have shorter limbs, it's just easier to get that rounded effect. And you're putting that muscle on a different size of skeleton. So there's only so much that certain people can put on. The next thing is gender. Men definitely have a significantly greater ability to put on muscle. Men have about 15 to 20 times the amount of testosterone or circulating testosterone in their bodies, and that's the primary muscle building hormone. And there's a clear dose-response relationship between testosterone levels and muscle strength and muscle mass. Men are also generally larger. Even a man who's the same height as me, so I'm 5'10", which is fairly tall for a woman. A guy who will be the same height as me is likely to have a larger frame, thicker bones, and is able to put on more muscle onto that frame. Training age. And that means how long you've been consistently training with weights. There is something that we call newbie gains. So that means that when you're a complete beginner to weight training, you're gonna see a more drastic improvement in your muscle mass, also in your strength. But right now we're talking more about the muscle mass side. Remember that I'm talking about how much muscle you can put on naturally, so not anyone assisted by additional testosterone or growth hormone or anything like that. So as a general guideline, in the first year of training, let's say for a relatively young male around 30 years old, he can conceivably put on 20 to 25 pounds of muscle. Now, this is quite a lot, and it can make a big difference for some people's frame size. But that's the first year. In the second year, he might only be able to put on an additional 10 pounds. Then by the third year, he might have dropped down to only about 5 pounds. Now there's a lot of variation, but for most people, putting on 30 pounds of solid muscle is pretty fantastic. Now a woman in her first year of training likely won't see that kind of growth, but maybe 10 pounds in the first year is quite a good result. After that, it's gonna drop down as well, maybe 5 pounds, perhaps after that, 2.5 pounds a year. Some people have reached their potential after about 3 or 4 years of solid, consistent training and proper eating. I'm gonna go into some of those important training factors towards the end. There's gonna be a difference between someone who's 6 feet tall compared to someone who's 5 feet tall. Obviously, you can put a lot more muscle on a 6-foot frame than you can on a 5-foot frame. So keep in mind your body type in general, your height, all of that is gonna affect how much muscle you can put on. Now it gets a little bit fuzzy here in terms of newbie gains. We know that first year is really dramatic, but then after that, it drops off, mostly because people don't continue to train consistently and progressively. So not a lot of people get those incremental gains, except for those of us who have been training for a long, long time. And then you're just trying to maintain once you get to a certain point, or perhaps add on half a pound of muscle a year if you're lucky. But now I'm going to go into how you can make your training more effective. It does take time to put on muscle. A lot of people will start their training and they expect to see changes very quickly. Putting on muscle is actually much harder than losing weight. If you get yourself into a calorie deficit, you're just going to start to lose weight, you'll start to lose fat. But muscle is a slow, meticulous process, and you need to constantly be doing the right training and providing your body with the right nutrition in order to keep building. So I actually think it's much more challenging to build muscle than it is to lose weight. And it's harder to maintain your muscle mass as well. To maximize your muscle growth, you need to focus on progressive resistance training. And that means that you're increasing your weights as you get stronger. Now, this can also be body weight training, but then you really need to challenge yourself. It is much easier just to start loading more weight for different exercises. And you want to focus on compound exercises where you're using more than one joint at the same time. Big muscle groups, squats and lunges, deadlifts as well. Things like pull-ups and dips can be effective. Large multi-joint exercises will allow you to build more muscle more quickly and effectively. It's also important to pay attention to the frequency that you're training. So that's how often you train each body part. So ideally you're doing each body part twice a week. It's been shown that that's most helpful for building muscle. You need to balance between the training and the recovery, because if you don't have enough recovery time, you won't allow your muscles to grow. It's not ideal to do small body part split programs, so you don't need a biceps day and a triceps day and a forearm day or anything like that. It's good to hit each muscle group twice a week. You also want to pay attention to your sets and reps. In order to build muscle, you want to vary those, and there's a good range of reps that will develop muscle. The important thing is that you continue to progress over time as you get stronger. As you build more muscle, you build more muscle, and you keep striving for that goal. Nutrition is really important in terms of maximizing your muscle mass. You're not going to gain 20 pounds of muscle mass if you're not eating enough and you're not getting enough protein. There was an interesting study where they compared a higher protein diet with a lower protein diet in women who were in their 20s, and in the 2 months of the study, they put on about 2.5 pounds of muscle per month for the women that were on the higher protein diet. The women on the lower protein diet did put on some muscle, but not as much. Other things that you want to pay attention to if you want to maximize your muscle mass: supplements can be useful for muscle building. Whey protein, I don't really consider that a supplement, I just consider it an additional food, but that can be helpful for getting your protein needs met. You can also use casein, which is a slower releasing protein, which is found in cottage cheese. You also need to make sure that your calorie intake is high enough in order to build muscle. So in some cases, you can build muscle in maintenance as you're losing body fat. That would be the case of body recomposition. However, some people will need more, particularly if you're already very lean and you're trying to put on muscle, you're a naturally slim person. You're going to probably need a calorie surplus, some extra calories to get you to build your maximum muscle mass. Now, an important warning in terms of the rate that you're putting on your muscle mass: most people are going to be tracking and monitoring their muscle growth through the scale and perhaps with measurements. If you're looking on the scale and you're seeing a gain of more than 5 pounds per month for a male, for a female probably more than a couple of pounds per month, then you're likely not seeing an increase in muscle mass, you're seeing an increase in fat. You may be putting on some muscle, but you're putting on some fat. In a lot of cases, it's quite challenging to just put on muscle and stay very lean during that point. Most people will get into a calorie surplus, put on muscle, and also put on a little bit of fat, but you want to minimize the amount of fat that you're adding while putting on muscle. So it's just another sign that you may actually be overeating, consuming too many calories, so you're not using them to build muscle, your body is storing them as fat. Let me know in the comments how much muscle you're trying to put on and how you're going about it. Please hit the like button if this video was helpful for you, and subscribe and hit the bell for more evidence-based fitness and nutrition information.